Introverts, how did you meet your girlfriend? At a garage sale. Well, technically, my mom's garage sale. My father was a hoarder, but not of old newspapers or glass bottles or garbage. He hoarded consumer goods. Tools, CDs, home improvement stuff, camping gear, hunting and fishing stuff. The man had piles and piles of it stuffed into his home, most of it pretty high quality, all bought on clearance. The old man was a sucker for a deal, even if he didn't have a use for it. After he passed away, it fell to us to figure out what to do with a stock of overstocked goods large enough to open a store. So we sold it at rock bottom prices in the front yard, as is tradition. It was a miserably hot summer's day. My mom requested that I come over and help because the house was on a well-trafficked street and the sheer volume of stuff meant there would be tons of people. She was right. There had been a zillion people the day before, and though we'd sold a lot of stuff, there was so much more yet to go. And today, I'd put an ad up on Craigslist. It was even busier. It was a long day of haggling with strangers, but at the end of the day, we sold 90% of the load, and we were just getting ready to close up and celebrate our success with pizza. Then this car pulls up, and out hops this gorgeous girl. She starts poking around in the CDs first, finds a couple she loves, then waves me over and starts asking about some she's unfamiliar with. I think she thought that since she'd found a few things she liked, the stuff she hadn't heard might be in the same vein, not knowing it was purchased indiscriminately from bargain bins all over town. I answer as best I can. I hadn't heard most of them, but I was able to steer her to a couple she might enjoy. We kept chatting, and I sort of showed her around in between helping other people who kept showing up. There was definitely an instant attraction and some really great conversation. She had to get going, so I made her a sweetheart deal on the stuff and helped her to her car. She got in, drove away, and then I realized I hadn't gotten her number. My brother and neighbor had a fucking field day at my stupidity. But she told me where she worked at a restaurant down the road, and she told me the days she was usually scheduled. So I did something very unusual for me and pursued it. Friday afternoons, I'd drive over from my office and ask to sit in her section. The food was terrible, but she'd stop and chat as long as it wasn't busy, and I caught her miring a few times. So on my third visit, I told her I'd love to see more of her and asked for her number. 10 years, a marriage, and a child, and we're still head over heels for each other, so I guess I owe my dad for the posthumous hookup. TLDR, I'm only person in history to get something at his own garage sale. Wow, that was a pretty sweet story and probably the best TLDR I've ever seen. Always thought she was really pretty. Had noticed her when she first moved in, dorm living. She was a year under me. She had a boyfriend all through her freshman year, and I'm not one to try and mess with that. After that year, my sophomore year, I moved out and went to live in an apartment with some friends. Me and my best friend at the school at the time were pretty introverted, and we were worried that we wouldn't meet people anymore since we both moved out to separate apartments, and one of the main perks of dorm living was being around hundreds of other people your age within 100 feet at all times. So we made it a pact to go and visit our old dorm at least once a week to try and meet new people and stay in contact with the underclassmen we had met thus far. She still lived in a dorm but had moved across the street to a different dorm that was all girls. One time, early August, so beginning of the school year, we went to visit our old dorm around 7 p.m. We found some friends from last year there, including her. I didn't know her up until that point, just that she was extremely pretty and her name. Anyways, we decided to go to another girl's apartment to play board games. As a genius ploy, me and my friend had purchased a board game to give us something to do to meet people. We're really cool, in case you couldn't tell. So we go to this house and meet some people we'd never met. Our board game requires pairs of people, so we pair up, and I get paired with the girl who lives in the apartment. My friend gets paired up with the pretty girl. It was fine though, because while I thought she was pretty, I didn't know if she was single. The night went on and it was really fun. We played for about 4 hours and got some really good conversation in with these people we either barely knew or didn't know at all. Afterwards, when my friend got me home, I made sure to add everyone I had met on Facebook, because for some reason that felt important to me. I don't know. Next week, we go again during the day and I see her there. Originally, there were probably 6 of us in the dorm lobby. One by one, everyone left until it was just her and me. We got to talking and she seemed really cool. I liked her. But she said she had to go study or something after a while, and I assumed I freaked her out or whatever, so that wasn't the best. Next week, she's there again. We talk for a bit in a group of people before the group collectively decides to go play volleyball at the local rec center across the street. She agrees to come. Before we leave, my friend from before tells me she's flirting with you. I didn't believe him and thought he was just pulling my leg. We go to play volleyball and she shows up. We play for at least 3 hours. She's there the whole time and she seems genuinely terrified to play. It was bizarre. It's like she didn't want to be there, but stuck it out the whole time despite some people leaving halfway through and it being perfectly perfectly reasonable for her to leave then. Afterwards, some people left to go eat while others went back to the dorm. I go back to the dorm. She comes with. We talk for a bit, and by a bit, I mean hours in a group. I get really hungry, but I'm afraid if I leave to go eat that she won't come with and we'd never be able to talk like this again. My friend goes and gets me McDonald's, delivers it to me, then promptly leaves to talk to other people at a different part of the dorm. I mustered up the courage at 4 a.m. It took me a little while to ask for her number. She gives it to me. I see her the next weekend. She kisses me. I die inside. The next week, I ask her to be my girlfriend. I plan to ask her to be my wife. I love her. I'm a female, but I'm very introverted. I met my now husband at the gym. I would always work out with my brother, and my now husband thought I was dating my brother because we were always at the gym together. Ew. When he asked my brother how long we had been dating, we both looked at each other and said, we're siblings, so never. He asked my brother if we could all work out sometime, and I went full-on awkward when we did. He was showing me a new workout, and he almost smashed my face in with a dumbbell. I walked off because I was so embarrassed and started working out alone. Then he asked me out to lunch, and we hit it off. That guy probably must have felt so relieved when he found out that you guys were actually siblings and not dating each other. She came over to me in a coffee shop while she was on vacation in my country to ask how to tip. We had a 2-hour conversation and then an amazing 5-hour lunch 2 days later. She complained about her hostel and I offered her my spare bedroom. She accepted. Nothing happened, although it seems crystal clear in retrospect that we were falling for each other. Duh. I didn't want to be douchey and make her feel uncomfortable under my roof, so putting the moves on her was not something I seriously considered. 2 nights later, I had to be gone for most of the night on a work assignment, and I asked if she could please watch and walk my dog in my absence. I came home at 5 a.m. and was greeted by my suddenly very soft, very fluffy dog. She had somehow understood, "Will you please wash my dog?" and apparently didn't find that as a strange request at all. The next evening, after we'd been talking over a bottle of wine for hours, it seems she'd had enough of my apparent indecisiveness, took the wine glass out of my hand, put it down, and leaned in for a kiss. That was 26 years ago. We've been married 23 years. Introvert girl, I met my husband on Xbox Live, Halo 3, almost 10 years ago. Been married for 6 years now. How the fuck? Like, how? Teach us! On the Greyhound. During my time in the Army, I was stationed at Fort Eustis, Virginia. On my way home, Denver, Colorado at the time for Christmas, I saw her sitting across from and slightly behind me. Honestly, I didn't pay much attention to her at first, but my buddy seated next to her did. After getting shot down repeatedly for a day and a half, he finally got off the bus. Shortly thereafter, she came over and sat next to me, and we started talking. After that, we got split up, put on different buses, and I kicked myself for not getting her number. Then, when the bus stopped in St. Louis, there she was, standing right there in the entrance, almost like she was waiting for me. If my bus had arrived 15 minutes later, I'd have never seen her again. Then I found out the bus to Denver was delayed due to snow, and wasn't going anywhere for at least 2 days. She hurried over to the ticket counter and had my ticket changed to Des Moines, Iowa, where she was going, so I wouldn't be trapped in St. Louis for 2 days. We spent the next 4 days getting to know each other, then I continued home. We had a long-distance relationship for about 6 months until I came home permanently, by which time she had moved to Denver and rented an apartment. We got married 3 years later and have been together 10 years total. I met her at a gaming club. I was playing D&D, she was hanging out with the MTG crowd. She caught my eye from afar, but being an introvert, I never went up to her. All my social energy was being spent on the D&D, and I had none left to leave my close friend group and meet someone new. If there's one hobby you can do while being solitary, it's writing, and that eventually led me to NaNoWriMo. I got to talking with some of the people on the local forums, and one of them turned out to be her. She invited me to a write-in with a bunch of locals. I didn't really want to go out, but now this girl I liked was directly inviting me out. I couldn't say no. We became Nano buddies for the next couple of years and started hanging out outside of that. We spent many nights during her senior year of college hanging out at her apartment, watching various shows and writing together. Then she graduated and moved away, and we slowly lost contact. Flash forward 4 years. I'm still single, a semi-regular poster on r/foreveralone, and resigned to living single for the rest of my life. She pops up on Facebook again. We'd been Facebook friends since before she moved away, but she rarely used the site. Now we're chatting, and soon the chatting moves to Skype. She's thinking about moving back into town and wants to know if I'd go around looking at apartments with her. She does the several-hour drive, and we look at a few places, hang out for a while, then she goes home. After a few weeks later, she tells me about this cool nearby theme park. She does the several-hour drive, we hang out for a while, then she goes home. This goes on for a month or two, and I'm just the densest idiot that ever deserved to be an evolutionary dead end because I'm not realizing people don't just drive for hours to spend a little time with a friend. Finally, in the most adorable Skype message I've ever gotten, she asks me if the next time she comes to town, it could, maybe, possibly, if I want it to, be a date. I told her I'm someone who enjoys happiness, so of course yes. That was 2 years ago, we're getting married in July, and we still laugh at how dense I was. I'm someone who enjoys happiness, so of course yes, was a great line. My husband is an introvert. I liked him all through high school. We were friends for 13 years. Finally one day, I looked at him and said how come we never dated? We should date. He said okay. Got married in 2015, had our baby in 2016. I knew someone in high school, had a bit of a crush on her, both of us too introverted to do anything about it. We didn't see each other for a few years after high school. I was with some friends from college when we recognized each other. After a few months of hanging out, we figured we should go out as we intended in high school. That was 4 years ago. We got married last October and adopted a lizard together. You know it's going amazingly well between you and your significant other when you decide to adopt a friggin' lizard together. We met in a science fiction class at college and we absolutely hated each other. She thought I was an idiot and I thought she was a know-it-all bitch. We argued, we squabbled, we one-upped. We are both super nerds, so it was a seemingly endless battle of esoteric knowledge about science fiction literature. At some point, we got to arguing about Atlas Shrugged. I made several trenchant remarks about its lack of literary value, and she aggressively defended it. One thing led to another, and before I knew it, we were watching The Empire Strikes Back and dating. We're engaged now. She still thinks I'm an idiot. I still think she's a bitch. But we don't hate each other anymore. After 4 years of no dating following a crushing breakup, a mutual friend called to my attention she was into me. I was oblivious. I didn't know her very well, but I was ready to try again. I wasn't even sure I was very attracted to her, but I figured I couldn't hurt to go on a date with a nice girl. We hit it off. She's pretty shy, which is why she said she'd never had the courage to try to talk to me. In the course of the first date, I'm only slowly realizing she's amazing. Many years later, now we have 2 kids and there's just a lot of love in our lives. He was in the corner drinking a bottle of water. I noticed him immediately, and I noticed him noticing me for the better part of an hour. I finally just walked up to him after I figured he was too shy to approach me. We chatted for about 2 hours and then left. Later in school, we exchanged our AOL screen names, and then after weeks of random chat sessions, he finally worked up the courage to ask if I wanted to see a movie, Harry Potter Natch. During the date, he didn't say anything, but I noticed him very fidgety, so I decided to hold his hand. After the movie, we were sitting in his car in silence, and he was fidgety again, so I grabbed his face and kissed his cheek. He turned completely red, but was grinning ear to ear. In person, he had trouble stringing sentences together, but online we would chat for hours. He had to express his love via email and cuddling without saying a word. We first met over 14 years ago, bought a house together and getting married in October, going to Disney and Universal for our honeymoon / celebrate Halloween. It's pretty much amazing. As we get older, he's gotten much more vocal, but I still do most of the talking and socializing. We do a squeeze when holding hands to mean I love you if we don't want to talk. Love him to pieces. Alright, that is it for today, guys. Did you enjoy these posts? Let me know in the comments below. Until next time, this is Max, signing off.